So my presentation, as Andrea mentioned in the intro there, telling you a little bit more about a particular use case for integrating CEF e-translation. So to tell you more about a way in which CEF e-translation has been integrated into we think, an interesting service for the EU Council Presidency in 2017 and 2018. But first, a little bit of background, just a couple words about us, about Tilde. We like to say that we help to enable multilingual communication and help organizations cross language barriers with AI-powered language services. So over the last 25 years, we've worked in a lot of different language technologies, including machine translation, more recently neural machine translation, linguistic analysis tools, a lot of NLP tools and services, speech technology, particularly for some of the more complex languages of Europe, and more recently, multilingual chatbots as well, so helping to make AI multilingual. And we were talking a little bit about these different services that we provide and some of the work we've done actually last week in California at some events, and actually just got in last night. So if I fall asleep on stage, someone please wake me up, because literally got in last night. So we were talking a little bit about work on neural MT and also actually our work on this tool for the EU Council Presidency. So about 3 years ago, Latvia had the distinct privilege of organizing or hosting the EU Council Presidency, which is this big event. It takes place in a different country every half year. Thousands of attendees attend all kinds of high-level meetings. Lots of journalists also attend the events as well. So it's a big event in the different countries, and Latvia organized this in 2015. And of course, we wanted to help out in some way, help out the people who are coming to visit Latvia, help out the journalists, help out the delegates. So of course we applied our skills in language technology and decided to build a tool for the delegates and journalists. So the first step is we are the developers of Hugo LV, which you heard a little bit about earlier today from Jan Ziedins. So we used Hugo LV, which is the Latvian government's machine translation platform, and we adapted it for the EU presidency terminology. So we took this Latvian machine translation system and we adapted it for the presidency and built a number of tools for the people who are attending the events. We built a desktop app for journalists, built a mobile app for the delegates, and also built a machine translation station or a machine translation kiosk at the headquarters of the presidency, so that the different people who are attending these events could actually access information in Latvian, so they could read texts in Latvian and find out what was going on, because let's be honest, Latvian isn't a language that's spoken by very many people in Europe. So we wanted to help access information in Latvian for the people attending the event. And of course, the tool was provided to everyone who was attendance, free of charge, and it could be actually accessed right at the Hugo LV site for people. So there was actually a website where they could go and download these various tools for accessing information in Latvian during the presidency. So it was used very widely, both by EU delegates and particularly by the journalists who were in attendance. So these are people who needed to do things like translate press releases, research information about different political figures, and just basically track what was going on in Latvia. So it was very popular with the journalists. This is a picture of the translation kiosk in the media center, and the tool was also downloaded, and it was downloadable from all the computers in the media center as well. So we spent a lot of time showing journalists how to use it. The picture on the left is actually an Italian journalist who was doing a profile of the mayor of Riga that day, and in the morning I showed him the tool, and he was able to do some last-minute research about the different, let's say, little problems the mayor had gotten into that morning, and it was able to surprise him with his knowledge of what was going on in regional politics. So, and the picture on the right is me introducing the tool to the Princess of the Netherlands. So a lot of people got to test out the tool, got to see how they could access information, and we're very happy to have tools that they could use to read stuff in Latvian. And it also became a showcase of the Digital Assembly, which was a big event that concluded the presidency, where multilingualism was actually one of the major topics. We like to think in no small part because of the availability of these different tools, the availability of the kiosk, the mobile app, etc. And actually Robert Madlin, who was the Chief Innovation Officer at the Commission at the time, was head of DG Connect, actually mentioned multilingualism quite a bit, including in his closing remarks for the presidency, where he said, there will be no digital single market without multilingualism, as few people feel comfortable operating in their second or third language. And I think that we certainly can concur, and I'm sure everyone in the room can agree as well. So of course, multilingualism is a major issue for the European Commission. It's a topic of today's event. As has been mentioned many times, it's a huge challenge and also an opportunity for the EU to provide text and translations and information in all 24 languages. That's one of the driving factors of e-translation, which Marcus discussed, and which Tilde and the rest of the consortium is very happy to be part of, to help develop with language resources. But of course, e-translation is only as good as it's used, right? It's only as good as Jan Zieding said in his presentation, as much as it can make people happy with good translations. So the Commission's really been pushing for integrations of e-translation, and so we're also happy to step in and help out in integrating CEF e-translation. And because we had this great experience in Latvia during the 2015 presidency, we decided to develop or to integrate CEF e-translation for the EU Council presidency in 2017 and 2018. So our idea was to take CEF e-translation, combine it with some neural MT systems, because of course this is this new approach to machine translation. It certainly wasn't available in 2015, but it's something that Tilde has been working on quite a bit. So our idea was to take CEF e-translation and combine it with some neural systems for the languages of the hosting countries, and integrate it into some helpful tools for people attending the events, because of course translation is only as good as it can be used. It needs to be usable. So we wanted to put translation into people's hands at the event in a website, online, in a desktop app, in a mobile app, and in a Katul plugin, so that it could be used by a wide range of different people, and really work toward making translation really a widely available utility for the people of the event. So we wanted to make it usable for staff members, so for translation staff, for international journalists attending the event, for the EU delegates who were also attending the event, as well as for the public sector translators who were really doing the heavy lifting for the event in terms of translating documents and translating press releases and things like that. So we wanted to also help them out a bit as well. So we integrated CEF e-translation plus some neural systems in all these tools and made them available widely to the people at the presidency. This was our project. This was our idea. So we had a bunch of partners to help us out. So it wasn't just us, Tilde. We also had partners at the Institute for Bulgarian Language, because the EU Council presidency in 2018 will be in Bulgaria, as well as in Austria. So our third partner was at the University of Vienna. So we heard quite a bit about CEF e-translation in a previous presentation, and we heard a little bit about neural networks in the presentation by the University of Edinburgh, and I actually like to say some words about this as well, because it was a core part of the tool we built. We wanted to combine CEF e-translation with neural networks. So just very briefly, once again, what is neural MT? It was explained very well by the University of Edinburgh, but I don't think it hurts to rehash this, because it really is a major topic in translation today. These events in California last week, it was really everything that everyone was talking about. So neural MT is really, is certainly the next wave, the future of machine translation. And in a nutshell, the way I think it's best described is what it does, it examines the full context of a sentence and really helps to produce more fluent, readable, and human-like translations. The way I like to think about it in terms of comparing neural machine translation to statistical machine translation, it's kind of like the way you learn a new language. When you're a beginning learner of a language and you're just picking it up for the first time, you really take it kind of step by step or word by word. You know, the feeling you're learning a language, you go into a store, you try to order something, and it's almost like you say one word and then you say the next word, you're happy if they agree a little bit, and you say a third word and you're kind of, you know, working from word to word. The words don't really match up, there isn't a lot of correlation, not much inflection, the syntax is all off, but somehow you make it to the end of the sentence and kind of get your point across. This is sort of like statistical machine translation. Neural MT is more like a fluent learner, a fluent speaker of a language, who could almost see the entire sentence almost intuitively before speaking, which always seems amazing for someone who doesn't understand, or just learning a language, that say a fluent German speaker can correctly split the verbs, place the zu at the end of the sentence, and kind of just rattle it off without thinking too much. So this is almost like neural MT. And the result is more fluent, readable translations. And the way it does this is really by taking into account a lot of complex linguistic elements like word order, syntax, dependencies, morphosyntactic agreements, and all kinds of other very complex linguistic features that just aren't handled well by the more traditional SMT. That being said, what we found in our own work is that neural networks are also very sensitive to mistakes and noise. So this was brought up a lot of the presentations before, but when there's mistakes in the input data, so in the language resources that are being fed into the engines, they're very likely to be reproduced. And of course, this is further exacerbated by some of the languages that don't have much data, so that have scarce data, such as the smaller languages, the complex languages, and certainly some of the overlooked domains. So the challenge of developing MT for neural MT for some of the complex languages is still very much alive. But at Tilde, this has been something that we've been kind of specializing in because we're based in Northern Europe, where some of the more complex languages live. So we've really put a lot of work into building neural MT for complex languages, and we think we've have a pretty good approach to doing so. A lot of it has to do with very careful data processing, cleaning of data, terminology. There's a whole method that we have in place, and it's borne a lot of fruit recently. For example, we won first place at the WMT 217 competition for some neural machine translation systems we built, which we were quite proud of. And we've consistently gotten some higher translation scores for the Baltic languages. So we can also say that we're better than Google, something that was brought up also by the University of Edinburgh, and we've been able to do the same for some of the more complex languages of Europe. So the first country that hosted the EU Council presidency on our watch, it was in 2017, was Estonia, which also happens to be one of the more complex languages of Europe. So it was also kind of up to our own challenges in developing neural MT for these complex languages. And thanks to our development of these neural machine translation engines, we're really able to help provide people at the Estonian EU Council presidency with very fluent, highly readable translations. We were able to really boost translation quality for a lot of more informal texts and really get a lot of accurate translations of some of the inflections that you find in Estonian that are pretty complex. And this really helped us provide a lot of benefits to Estonia as well as a country. We really helped the presidency staff quickly translate documents. We really have empowered the visiting journalists and delegates to access information in Estonian, so to translate things like press releases and local news sites. We're also helping the translators, the actual staff members of the EU Council presidency, to translate more productively, and as well as to help translate content and websites into multiple languages. So the system itself really lives at this website, translate217.eu. You can check it out as well. Translate some stuff from Estonian into English. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback, including from some of the people in the room who have said that the systems perform very well, and it's really helped them to translate stuff. This is what the interface looks like. So what we've done is actually combined neural machine translation engines for Estonian with some of the TEF e-translation engines that are most frequently used. So as you can see here, you can actually choose between the neural MT engines for English and Estonian. We're also French and German, which are some of the languages that were requested by the EU Council presidency in Estonia. Of course, I have a document translation feature, which is very popular. Several hundred documents have been translated just in the past month. So these are really used a lot by the journalists to translate press releases, to translate the documents that they get from the official organizations in Estonia that aren't necessarily translated into English. So it's really been a helpful tool for them. And the website is also very responsive, and it's able to be used on mobile devices as well. And then there's a nice feature on the website as well, where you can actually choose different Estonian news sites. So this is really a way to help the visiting journalists to track what was going on in Estonia during the presidency. They wouldn't ordinarily have access to these sites because, of course, they don't translate into English. So this tool really helps them to see what's going on, to research about what's happening in Estonia, because as we know, when they're traveling to these countries, the journalists also like to do kind of reports about what's going on the local scene, and this has really helped them as a tool to do their research and find out what's going on in Tallinn. We also have a cut tool plugin, which is really also a special request from the EU Council Presidency Secretariat in Estonia. All their translators use a cut tool in their daily work, so we wanted to help them there as well to be really where they're translating, so we developed this plugin. And we also organized a workshop for all the public sector translators and specifically the staff translators at the Council Presidency. I think we have someone in the room here who was there as well in attendance. And at the workshop, which was a half-day long workshop, we showed them how to use the tool, showed them how to use the cut tool plugin, and did a lot of demonstrations and helped answer their questions about how they could use the tool to better their everyday work. And they're particularly interested in hearing about Neural MT for Estonian. So in addition to this workshop, we also had an official launch of the event. Of course, we wanted to be as vocal as possible and share our work. We wanted as many people to learn about the tool, to really use it. And we also wanted to talk to people as much as possible about TEFI translation and the different ways that it could help enable multilingual communication for this event as well. So the event we chose for the launch was the Tallinn Digital Summit, which was really a big, high-profile event. All the heads of state were there from across Europe. And we were able to have a special exhibition space along with some of the top companies in Europe, where we were actually able to show the different people in attendance how to use the tools and what they were like. And that was quite successful as well. We had a lot of interest. This very nice man from Greece was there as well, and we got to tell him all about the tool, talk to him a lot about artificial intelligence and how it's being used in the language space. So it was really a great honor to be sharing not only the work of TEFI translation, not only the work of ELRC and also Tilde, but also in general talking about how AI has been applied to language. I see Stelios taking a picture in the front row here. I can send this to you as well. So I think that yeah, so there was a lot of interest from the heads of state. Of course, AI is something that a lot of them are talking about. There's a lot of resolutions that have been passed. So it's really an honor to share how AI has been applied to the language space as well. If there are any Italians in the room, the Italian Prime Minister Paolo Gentiloni was also particularly interested. He actually said that he had just helped pass in the G8 summit a resolution on AI. So he was really interested to see that AI was being used in language as well in order to boost translation quality and to help people translate better. So there was a lot of interest in the tool from the heads of state there. So what's next for the EU Presidency Translator? So we're in Estonia now. The Estonian presidency is just about to wrap up in December. But our work isn't over. We're moving on to the next countries. So we're working with our Bulgarian partners at the Institute for Bulgarian Language to develop some neural MT engines for Bulgarian, which is also a big challenge. So the event is moving on to Bulgaria in January to June of 2018. So we'll be building some of the very same tools, though with a different website, of course, translate218.eu, and hope to have some of the same feedback and interest on the part of the Bulgarians as well. And then in the second half of 2018, we're moving on to Austria, and we'll be building some neural MT engines for German. So as we like to say, we'll be kind of trying to leverage some of our experience in the more complex languages like Bulgarian and Estonian to try to help some of the easier languages of Europe like German. It's a joke. So that's the challenges that lie ahead for us in 2018. I guess it remains to be seen what happens because we don't really know yet. The events are kicking off in January, so hopefully by the end of the year I'll be able to share some feedback from Bulgaria and Austria and see what they had to say about using machine translation more widely, hear what they had to say about neural machine translation. So stay tuned for some more updates as we find out more from these two countries as well. So in a nutshell, that's what we've been doing. That's how we've been helping the EU Council Presidency by integrating TEFI translation as well as some high-powered neural MT engines. We've had a great time doing it so far and helping to helping the translators to boost their productivity, helping journalists to find out what's going on in the hosting countries, as well as to help the delegates in attendance access information in the local languages, and kind of works very well with our general ethos at Tilda to help enable multilingual communication and cross-language barriers with the latest in AI-powered language technology. Thank you very much. Go ahead. Yeah, I see I was thinking about Finland in 2019 during your presentation, so I hope that's the question, and the answer is certainly yes.
Excellent, thank you very much. Yes, my question is precisely that, because I will be the one responsible for the translation arrangement during our presidency, so I would be very interested to hear about our possibilities of having something similar. But also I would like to know who in Estonia and these other countries, who was the one who okayed this? Who did you contact? I mean, I can get enthusiastic about this, but I'm not the one who can say, yes, let's do it.
Right. Well, in Latvia, the country we started with was actually the Secretariat that was part of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And I know it's been a challenge because in each country is a different organization that's responsible for organizing the presidency. In Estonia, it was actually I think it was called the Prime Minister's Office. So we were communicating directly with the people in charge of communications and for the event itself. So it's a different office in each country that's responsible for hosting the presidency.
So, Richard, I'm here. Here.
Okay. Somewhere, okay. Somewhere back there.
Jerry from the FKI. Thank you very much for the very nice talk, and this is really impressive work you have been describing. My question would be, we were discussing before the amount of data that is needed. I was wondering if you can say something about the hardware requirements and the time you need to switch from your to, for example, to Bulgaria. So the training time, is it something you can do in 1 week, 2 weeks?
So in terms of language resources, of course, because of these are the complex languages, the resources are incredibly important. So that was the first step, gathering the language resources for the languages. And then in training the neural MT engines, the whole training process took about a couple months for training these engines. So as you know, neural MT takes a bit longer than statistical machine translation. And then for Bulgaria, we're actually in the process of training those engines right now.